Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. I would like to thank you for tuning in to the Elouise Show, hosted by yours truly, Lynette Elouise. I'm super excited for today's conversation with a native New Yorker, artist, father, and all-around creative, Damian Dudley. Damian is the creator and lead designer of Dudley Designs NYC, as well as Daydreams. Daydreams aims to create, reinvent, and enhance fashion. The company motto is that it all begins with a dream. A dream becomes an idea, that idea turns into a vision, and that vision one day becomes a reality. Dreams therefore become realities, but first, one must dream and believe. Daydreams aims to inspire everyone to dream big. I would like to thank Damian for coming on today's call. Damian, how are you today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Honestly, it's been a very eventful week so far. How's the week been for you?
The week has been very eventful. Had a lot of learning to do, but learning never stops. So,
Just like real quick, what's probably the top lesson of the week thus far?
top lesson of the week. The top lesson: communication. Communication was the top lesson of the week.
Communication is key. Communication is so important in all avenues of life, in business, relationships. Like communication with self is important. You got to check in with yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it was more of just understanding miscommunication within yourself.
Mhm.
Even if you're the giver of information or the receiver, it's always great to understand that there are ways that you're not fully communicating, even though you think you are.
Mhm. So taking accountability and responsibility for, your own personal lapses in communication is important.
Very,
Hmm.
very.
What taught you this lesson, if you don't mind me asking?
So outside of my company and stuff and things that I do, I also work a job, a sheet metal worker. And what we have is that throughout our training, we have 4 weeks in which we go and we study. So this week's topic was AutoCAD. So I'm learning how to do drafting, and we also have a portion of it where the map program comes in and we have discussions just to see the worker and anything that is stressful to them and stuff like that. So inside that, the whole topic was communication.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about.
So it's interesting. So you work a job, but outside of the job that you work, as I previously mentioned in your bio, you have these two companies. Can you tell me a little bit more about Dudley Designs NYC?
So Dudley Designs is basically it's more of the process of the other company, the parent company. The parent company is Daydreams NYC. That's like the company, and Dudley Designs is more of on the design aspect of it and all the aspects of developing clothing, developing sneakers, developing uh, furniture, just design aspect of it. So that's more of me and what goes into my process of creating.
So Dudley Designs would be, like you said, the design aspect of sketching it out, the dreaming it up, but then would Daydreams be the construction of it, or is it more like the distribution, like the brand that oversees everything?
Right. So I mean, it's the company, it's the idea, right? It all starts with an idea, right? So the way that I looked at it was Daydreams is the thought process of it, right? That's you actually manifesting it in your mind and thinking about it. And when you think about it in your mind, when you think about daydreams, that's exactly what it is. It's you thinking about the process of something. Oh, I got an idea about this, and just thinking about it and pondering on it. And then moving it into the more like realistic part of it and like the real bringing it to life. That's where Dudley Designs is, because it incorporates all of the process of it.
So I have it backwards. Daydreams is more conceptual ownership of concepts, and then Dudley Designs is the actual execution and construction of it all.
Yes.
And by designs, we're talking primarily fashion designs, but that's not just limited to like clothing. Because I know you do some footwear as well.
Right.
The sneakers I saw on your Instagram, you do these sneakers for your son. They look
Right.
amazing. I want
Right.
to. And then,
Got you.
but you mentioned furniture. That's something I didn't know. You do furniture as well?
Well, I mean, it's not what I do, but it's just thinking about design as a whole versus as it's a concept, right? So concepts can be transferred to different things. It's just how you think about it. In the grand scheme of things, overall, I would like to get into being able to, let me just say it for this, right? So when I started out, right,
Mhm.
I I wanted to do stuff that I like to wear, right?
Mhm.
So the goal that I set for myself was by my birthday, I wanted to be able to have a full outfit on, right? That I created by myself, right? So concepts that I learned from making shirts, I could be able to transfer some of those into making pants, into making jackets, and then also into shoemaking. So what's the next step after you've got all of these things is being able to create stuff for your home, and then maybe one day you'll be able to create a home, but it's just taking those concepts and then putting them on to the next level of creativity and design.
Oh, okay, cool. So when is your birthday?
Christmas.
Oh, Christmas. So for your birthday or Christmas, head to toe, all Dudley designs.
All Dudley designs. I've done it already. It was one of the photos that I had.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds
Yeah.
so okay, backtrack. So you have a job, but you're also an entrepreneur. Do you spend a lot of time working from home?
Yes, you have to be able to be based at a home in order to encompass everything, and especially with having um young kids, you want to be able to have all of that home. I was they say, like, you want to have work, what is it, it's you want to be able to have it all in one place. I'm trying to think of the term that they use. It's a term that they use, but I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it in a minute.
So okay, so because now my mind is just going, and I just feel like so you work, but then you work from home as an entrepreneur, but then you're a dad. So how do you juggle, you know, entrepreneurship with being a father, with fatherhood? Like, how do you find the balance in that?
Well, well, for one, is definitely being able to find somebody who is going to, understand and help the process of that you're going to be spending more time doing this entrepreneurship and being able to create balance, but also knowing like what like milestones that a child is going to reach, and just being able to be attentive to them as they go along that. But it's always a support system, having a strong support system in hand, which fortunately that I have, but also being able to balance, because the most important thing at this point is the growth of the child, like of children, and being able to encompass things into them. And right now the business will come secondary, and work is work. Like, you work to get paid in order to feed into your dream, and then your dream that you want to be able to provide for your family with. So they all work together, and you kind of like just making sure that everybody knows like this is what the plan is, and I'm trying to support that.
So I think something's interesting that you mentioned. You mentioned something about your support system. So um as a father, like what does a support system entail? Is that your partnership? Is that your family? Is that your friends? Like, is it all of it? What encompasses this support system that you speak of?
Right. It's partnership, making sure that you have somebody in which they're going to be able to help you, and understand that the path that you're taking is something that is very time consuming. And then, direct family as far as like what they can do to help you, and if you have uh maybe like business partners as well, just to take some of the weight off of it. So it's like like a different group of relationships and what you need to have. Um, but they all have to be able to buy into the common vision that, this is for the betterment of everybody. Sometimes I think that you think so largely. Some people think on scale, and you could think so big and have an idea that is so big that people will not understand that idea just because it's too big to understand. Why would you want to do that? And that's something, why would you want to tackle that? But you see like, I'm forward thinking, so I know that, hard work at this point is going to pay bigger dividends. So it's almost like, would you party now every day, or would you work hard for 5 years and be able to party the rest of your life?
Okay. That's actually like a interesting point, and I think a decent segue into like my first official question. I know I've asked you a couple, but
Right,
um,
right, right.
so my question to you is, what is it like raising a Black boy as a Black man today? And part of that question, I would love for you to define what it is, what it means to be a man, um, and what it means to be a Black man.
Okay, so
America.
what it be to be a man and what it means to be a Black man
And then
in
like the third part of that is in America.
in America, and raising a Black boy in this month. So um it is, so let's see. First is to be a man, right? So to be a man is to be able to handle the responsibilities in which you have placed in front of you, and also knowing that there's always going to be eyes on you. Like everybody, certain people have more eyes on them than other people, right? So you have people viewing you from different levels. Like I would say, for instance, from my experience, right? Inside my family, I was one of the oldest inside the family of out of all of the boys. My whole generation is all predominantly males, right? I have one female cousin, and not to say that leadership was thrust upon me, but I've kind of figured my place inside the family structure. So one thing that I always look at is that everybody who's younger than me is going to be looking up to me. So as a man, I want to be able to portray that and show them the right way to do things, because me growing up, I didn't have that, right? So I didn't have that. Now, to be Black, man, I understand that there are more obstacles for me to navigate through and more things that I have to do. So I have to be exactly on point with everything that I do. So that just feeds into the previous one, right? One, I have all these eyes looking at me and watching me. And then to navigate through this world, I have all of these things that I have to make sure that I watch. So I have all of those steps. And then the third part of it would be everything that I've learned and understood, right? Because they say a wise man learns from his mistakes. No, a smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, right? So everything that I've learned, that's me being a smart man, and then also watching other people doing, I'm the wise man, and I want to be able to have my son and pass all that knowledge on to him, so he's able to navigate through today's world. And also, I have to also pay attention to things that are happening inside this current world, because this world is different than when I grew up. And I find that most people, when they go through whatever they went through as a kid, they don't allow themselves to understand that this is the new world in which that we're living in. And you have to teach your kid how to navigate through this world, not through the world in which you lived in.
Okay. So what are some distinct differences between like when you were growing up at your son's age versus him growing up right now? What are some distinct differences that you see?
Technology, information, the speed in which they can get everything is just available.
How do you guide that? How do you guide like the information that your son is receiving? Like, does he have a phone and an iPad? You know, kids have like phones at 3 years old now. That's crazy to me.
Right. Go ahead.
Like, how do you know, supervise and help him navigate through like, the age of technology and through the age of information?
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult just because you want a kid to be a kid and you want them to have that imagination and to see things and be a part of whatever today's culture is going to be as far as kids, because that's how they connect and they communicate, because they know things. That's how they talk. Like everybody like growing up when I was younger, it was like shows like Martin, right? Like you had to get home to watch Martin in order to talk, in order to communicate with everybody else, because that's what they were watching. But now they have all of these things out on YouTube that they talk about. But then it's also making sure that you understand that this is a tool, right? And he's young, he's 5. So it's a little more not difficult, but I just don't want to like take away so much of his youth and the things that he's watching, but also knowing what the bad things are. So that's why I say that you have to watch it as well. Like you have to be a part of that kid's culture and understanding, because they're learning things that are very different and you want to be able to relate to them and know exactly what they're talking about. So you have to monitor by watching it with them.
I heard from like some other parents that I know that that in the schools right now, I forget at what grade they're asking students if they feel like they're a boy or if they feel like they're a girl. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of people are a lot more vocal right now with regards to LGBTQ issues, and the other alphabets that I'm missing.
Right.
In ignorance, I apologize to the LGBTQ community. Yeah. But so I guess because of newfound information, because of I guess changes in society, at a young age, students are being asked if they feel like they're male or if they feel like they're female. And as a father, how do you feel about your son being asked that question? Do you think that he's equipped to handle answering that? And do you think he could be swayed by the answers of his peers?
No, I don't think that he could be swayed by the answers of his peers. And I don't think that question should be asked. It shouldn't be. That's not a question that should be for schools to talk to kids about. I think that they don't have enough information about the kid, because sometimes a teacher does. It depends on who the person is. They don't have. It's almost like when you go to the doctor, right? Going to the emergency room versus going to your primary care doctor is a totally different experience, just because your primary care doctor knows you. They know the person that you are. So when they ask you that question, they know the basis of everything, because you're able to go behind that curtain and tell them everything, right? You're able to tell them everything that you have to share, right? Whatever you've been doing, if you've been drinking a lot, whatever. But for a teacher who's only going to have a kid for a small portion of it, to think that it's okay to ask a kid that question is a very gray, like very slippery area that I wouldn't think that they would do, right?
Would you say it's intrusive?
It's very intrusive. It's very intrusive.
Now, would you argue that that's almost as intrusive, or would you argue that asking that question is rephrase? So you know when you take a standardized exam, or like when you take your SATs, or you know the testing that you do throughout the school year, the Regents, like I just remember always having to check my race off, but I never got what that had to do with the exam that we're taking. Do you think asking questions about race and ethnicity on these exams is equally intrusive as asking like a child about their sexuality, or even
Well,
an adult for that matter?
well, it depends on the level in which it's on, because if you're talking about standardized tests, like I don't know at what age they're asking these kids these questions, right? Because on most standardized tests, is whenever you get that race question, you're usually a little bit older. You're usually around your teens. I don't remember doing it in like
time I had to bubble that, I was like 8 years old. I feel like it was second grade. And I remember being confused because I'm mixed. So I had to choose between being Puerto Rican and being Black. And I was confused. I asked my teacher if I could like fill in half a bubble on one side and half a bubble. And they were like, no, you got to pick one. I was like, how? I was like,
I mean, I would just say that teaching, I mean, education and teaching starts in the home. So if that's something that a parent wants to have a conversation with their kid about, because just as growing up, like your parents tell you that this is what your ethnicity is, this is what you who you are, because those are like external things as far as, and also like heritage things.
no,
Now
yeah, that's really good, because then my next question to you was going to be like, how important is it to tell your son that he's that he's a little Black boy? Like, when do you start having the conversation about Blackness with your 5-year-old,
right.
and what does that conversation entail? Like, when you talk to your son about his race and his culture, what are you telling him? Like, what is it that he needs to know?
He needs to know, there's you sometimes you don't want to give a kid too much information, but there are certain points where you speak to him and tell them what it is that we're going through, right? So I constantly try to find ways to plant seeds inside his mind so that he's able to see it for himself, right? Because I don't want to tell him like, this is what we are. I don't want to have to tell him those things, but I also have to, I'm sorry, hold on. I also have to be able to know that at a certain age, he's able to decipher certain information. So right now he's at an age where he's very creative, and he's just like wants to play. And we have conversations about him being a boy, him being African American, right? He knows those things. But what it actually entails, that's more, I feel like I'm probably gonna get more into that when he's maybe like, because he just turned 5, like more to when he's 6, because I want to be able to like share that information for him and he fully understands what it is that it's going on. And then sometimes we need to, see how the world is changing and get information ourselves in order to share that information.
When you say what's going on, what do you mean by that? From your perspective, what is going on?
What's going on right now, it's definitely a change. I think that a lot of emphasis has been put on the divide and race, but it's really a class. It's really a clash of classes, because people without resources are being affected, and to be able to mask the things that are happening, they create tension, right? They misdirect us. So yes, there are a lot of things that are negative that are happening, but the information that we're getting it and the avenues in which we're getting it, it's definitely being overly pushed. So, huh?
Like the media is oversaturated with negativity and like, oh, guess what, guys? Pandemic. Like, you got to wear your mask. You can't touch people. Can't be around people. Stay 6 feet apart.
Touch people.
Oh, guess what, guys? Cops are still killing Black people. We still getting shot up in these streets, but this time we really do care. Oh, guess what, guys? Sex trafficking. But we're not just sex trafficking people. We're sex trafficking children. Possibly through an online database. Did you hear about the Wayfair situation? That's crazy.
Yes, I heard about it with the shelves that are $13,000 and the dressers and all of these things.
So they made a comment. And they obviously said, like, this is not a real thing, yada, yada, yada. But the truth of the matter is, like, there's always a child. So it got me off on like a a thought tangent, right? So I started doing some research on sex trafficking and human trafficking, specifically with children. And what I learned that in the US, human trafficking is greatest in California, New York, and I want to say, I'm going to probably fuck up the third city, but I want to say it's Texas, um, which makes sense in terms of positioning. But for as long as I can remember, I've always seen a missing child sign in New York City.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and on the TV, missing child, like that's always been a thing. So where do these kids go? You know, so that means that this is most likely an actual issue that's a really large issue that's been going on forever and we've like been overlooking it. So now going back to Black fatherhood, right? You're the father of a 5-year-old boy in a time where race relations are getting a lot more heated and human trafficking is, you know, being outed in a way that I've never seen before. So like what to you is more disturbing? What do either of these things worry you as a father? And if so, how do you prepare your child for what's going on? Granted that he's 5.
Right. Well, you kind of educate them on, because it's not, you can't give too much information because we don't know exactly where this information is coming from, right? We're getting it through platforms who, even these platforms have been questioned, right? So we have a lot of um, misinformation that goes around. You hear all these things about fake news. I mean, anybody could put a meme up and then the meme just gets turned over and somebody else will just like feed more into it. So it's just understanding and getting enough information about it in order to share that. Now, to speak to my son about things like this, he has to understand that the world um, is not as nice as you think it is, right? You know, you're at an age where you're a child. Some people get their childhood stolen from them or taken at an earlier age, and that sometimes that has a lot of effects on them as an adult. So it's like I want you to be a child, but I also want you to understand that there are things that are really bad out here. Um, you know, and it's just like you tell your kids, like, oh, when we go into the store, right? If I go into a store, I tell them, listen, your one job is to watch me, right? You need to know where I'm at. You can't be, you know, playing around. Even though I'm watching you, you still need to know where I'm at, because there are people out here who take kids and they do bad things, right? This is a part of the real world. So this is a conversation that I definitely have with them and tell them, like, people do bad things, so you shouldn't be, you know, lost as a kid or get separated from me at any period of time. If you walk away and you're too far to see me, that means that you're too far and you need to come back. And then as far as like racial tension, like, you know, he went out and he went marching. He did certain things, so he knows that he's fighting for some cause, but he doesn't know exactly what the cause is right now, because we're still figuring out what exactly we're fighting for. Even though we know that we're fighting for, as far as like the 400 years of being suppressed, and the new things that we are seeing, that we're visually seeing, that's been happening for a long time, and the uproar. But also, what place is he going to take for moving forward in like the next 400 years? What part are you going to play? What role are you going to do moving forward in the future? So those are more conversations that I'll have, but those are conversations as he starts to grow and mature, and I see what he's into and where he would like to go, and have that dialogue with him. Then I'll be able to like truly like talk to him about it.
Okay. Well, real quickly, I just wanted to let you know, Damian,
Mm-hmm.
who's listening, that this program has not been brought to us by One Books. I might be messing up the pronunciation of this name, but One Books is a bookstore based out of Los Angeles. It has its own website. It's a boutique shop. They are a specialty bookshop in their 13th year of doing business, and they produce books predominantly in African American literature, and apparently they have a great history section. So if anyone's looking to buy Black-owned business, buy from Black-owned businesses, if anyone's looking for books on African American history or just books written by African American people, definitely check out their website. It's at the top of the screen. Check out their Instagram at the top of the screen, which also has links to their website. And you can definitely get some books from them. Okay, because their assignment is to help produce justice and peace, which I'm so with. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the owners of this particular bookstore fought in the civil rights movement. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw that. And again, this is not an advertisement. They did not sponsor me to say this. It's just information that I think it's really important for everyone to have. So again, this episode has not been brought to you by Asa One Books. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. If someone knows the right pronunciation, please drop the phonics description below. Okay, so on books, next question. What kind of books are you gonna have your son read as he grows through life, about manhood, about what it is to be a Black man, and just for him to know about his history, or even just, you know, African American literature classics that you think like, yo, my son gotta read this book?
Yeah, I definitely want to be able to share with him more of like the great poets that we had, and also like philosophers, because I feel like you're able to internalize so many things and it gives you a better understanding of the outside world, because most of these things are really like something that is going to be forever passed on to us. So they I think like Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, W.E.B. Du Bois, Angela Davis, like those are some of the people in which I definitely would like to share with him and make sure that he has like a full understanding of the teachings that they have and what they were trying to like, you know, share with us.
Okay. Of the people that you named, who is probably the philosopher or poet or just overall writer that inspires you most?
Maya Angelou, definitely Maya Angelou. There's a lot of things in which she said that that she talked about. Oh, it hit home for me. It hit home for me just because I mean I grew up with a lot of female. All my whole generation above me is all females. So with that, I kind of like was able to be able to more get a better understanding of what she was saying. So it touched more.
Okay, so how important is it for a Black man to understand femininity and womanhood, specifically to understand Black women? How important do you think that is to the development of a Black man?
Because that is the person in which to have a connection with your parent is very it's very important. Femininity, because I think as a whole we are taught as men to only be tough, right? And we don't understand how to deal with our feelings, right? You can also it happens as a child because you're told not to cry. Like you're a man, you don't cry, but you have to be able to understand what why you're crying and what's the reason in which you're crying for. And I think that females are definitely somebody who are able to get you to understand that internalization of something, and then you're able
I think
to,
at a young age, it is a mother's role or just, you know, older women's role in life to help him to understand his emotions. But are you saying though that that understanding at a young age is something that he should be able to do within himself in an older age? That's what you're saying, right? Am I understanding? I just
right.
Okay.
Because a boy's connection with their mother is like the first thing that you have. That's your first love. That's the first person that you understand. So, but that person is always there for you when you fall and when you scrape. And then what you get when you fall down. But what you gain from your father is that you gain masculinity, and you also gain direction on where you need to go and what you need to do. So you have two folds of things in what you're trying to understand. So like that's the balance that you kind of get when you have a mother and
I lost the last part of you cut out on me. What did you say?
hear me?
I
Can you hear me?
can hear you.
You can hear me now?
All right, so you so essentially you're saying like the mother is, you know, a boy. Yeah. How about now? How about now? How about now? How about now?
Good.
You good? Yes. Why don't you try the AirPods again? If you're in a different location.
The AirPods. Hold on.
In the age of technology,
You can hear me?
is bothering us that we no longer.
Good now, right? You can hear me now?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So real quick, going to the next question. I do want to plug another brand that I found that I think is super duper ooper whooper super dope. Dopey dope,
Right.
dope. I made half of those words up, but it's something that I think is really prominent with some of the things that we talked about. Well, in like the long, oh my goodness. So basically, you mentioned like things that you want to, feed into your son, right? We talked about the way that the world is changing, right? So I came across this brand. It's a phenomenal brand that's doing things and it's helping out mostly marginalized people. So I'm just gonna bring them up to the screen moments.
Okay.
With our company card. Okay. So here's another brand that, again, newly introduced to, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but it looks to me like Isuzu. This brand is New York based, and basically their founders are two people who are on Forbes under 30 social entrepreneurs. One of them is Nigerian-born entrepreneur Abi Wemimo and his business partner Samir Goel. So this New York-based mobile platform helps individuals, mostly again from marginalized communities, save money, access capital, and build credit. Normally, renters don't get the credit, get credit increases for making their monthly payments on time. But with this this product, with this application, with this platform, you can actually, improve your credit score just by paying your rent on time, which I think is really phenomenal for a lot of people who are not homeowners.
That's good. That's great.
This platform partnered with Equifax in January to use its rent reporting platform to power credit scores for renters. In May, Isuzu launched a fund that provides rental assistance for those most affected by COVID-19. It's raised since then $200,000 for the fund. And with more than 200,000 users to date, the startup expects their revenue to reach 1.2 million this year. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but they were founded in 2019. And then these are their owners. So this to me is dope. This is something that I think everyone should be using.
Okay.
FYI, if anyone watches this or wants to get in contact with them or wants to check out the website or the Instagram, all you have to do is just, rewind, go back at the top of the page. You have their Instagram link, which I believe is Mayisusu on Instagram, and then their website. So I checked out the website. I thought this was actually really good because in conversations around Black communities in America and in conversations around reparations, which has been a conversation that I think I've had with several different people in many different ways, a major issue that we have as a community is lack of ownership. Lack of ownership in terms of businesses, lack of ownership in terms of land, lack of ownership in terms of property. We don't have a lot of, we just don't have a lot of assets. So this program, this platform, what they're allowing, people to do is use their situation to their advantage, right? So with a mortgage, you can build your credit. But with a mortgage, you're owning a house. But especially in New York, a lot of people cannot afford a house. People can't afford houses in Brooklyn anymore. They can't afford houses in Harlem anymore. So just by paying your rent on time, which a lot of people do, you can build your credit so that you can maybe get the collateral you need next time around, or the loan that you need to, to get the house that you want, or to start the business that you want, stuff like that. So I think it's dope. Shout out to them. Again, this is another business that did not pay me to sponsor or pay me sponsorships or ask me to advertise their business, but I think it is something that people need to know. It's a great resource, and it's, again, Black owned. So now with that, let's go back to your entrepreneurial spirit, right? Do you believe that your entrepreneurial spirit makes you a different type of dad? And if so, why or how? Like, what is it that about your hustle that pours into your child, if that makes any sense?
No, I mean, it definitely does, is because once you see somebody who it's also, we have like certain structures, right? And what's available to certain people. So I think we had a conversation about this recently when we were talking about doctors or lawyers. At some point, a kid only thinks that those are the jobs that are available. Now it's a more broad range of things in which you can get into. But once you have the spirit of a hustler, and you entail that, you're able to do things that most people won't be able to do, because you have that grind and that hunger for more. You want more. You want to push yourself further. So when you pass that information on to the next generation, it helps them and it benefits them, because other people are not going to be able to keep up with them, because I mean, at some point it is a race, right? There is something that you're trying to achieve. You want to be able to gain something, and once you have that, you're always going to be able to fall back on that, because if you hustle, everybody's going to see it. And no matter what, even if you're playing a sport, the person who hustles the most, who goes after every ball, who dives on the basketball court for anything, that's the person who always ends up getting a spot, even if they're not the best player, right? Because they know that that's an intangible that you can't teach, and maybe that's going to rub off on other people. So, and things that I do, I hope that people are looking at it and seeing that things are achievable if you put the proper work in. It's all about your work ethic. It's all about that spirit of wanting to put the work in and being able to better yourself. So that's something that you instill in your kids, and I think that that's going to be beneficial for him as he grows up.
Do you think that as a Black man, it is possible to attain manhood, not grown-ass babyhood, but manhood, without a hustle or entrepreneurial spirit? Do you think that as a Black man, you kind of need that as well?
I mean, I don't know, you can still obtain that, but a hustle like is like that's a tool that you have in your tool bag that no matter what you can always do it, because just as a person, because even if it was as a Black woman, if or an Hispanic woman, if you got that hustler spirit, then you know that when things get tight, I'm always going to be able to get it to where I need to. If something falls down, if I built up something and it falls down, I'm still going to be good because I'm still going to be able to make that happen.
Wouldn't you argue that unfortunately, like, things fall through more often than not for Black men than they do like other members of society?
I say that they definitely have more resources as far as collectively. Huh?
You're saying other members of society have more resources?
Yes, they have more resources at their fingertips. So you have to rely more on your hustle. You have to rely more on your hustle. Just because, but you can also be educated and learn. But that's the thing, is that if you're educated and you can hustle, then you got something that's just going to take you to another level.
Okay. So let's bring it back to your hustle, your specific hustle. Let's bring it back to Daydreams and Dudley Designs, right? So how do you think that your business, like your businesses, how do they contribute positively to the Black narrative? What are you bringing to the table in the course of our history? How does what you do, lift us?
So I mean, I have like a lot of things that I'm putting into place right now. But as a whole, I'm an African American male. Was born in the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx in New York. I know what it's like to go through things and struggle. So what I want to do is to be able to show the next generation and give them tools in which they can use and apply them as far as hustling, and as far as also being able to say that there's something that you own, right? Once you go into branding and you go into companies, once you buy into those companies, you're buying into whatever source and whatever they're doing. My company, and it's not like I'm just saying like it's Black owned, it's owned by me, and the integrity in which I put into my products is the best. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's something that I want to wear. I like to wear. I want to. So I'm sharing this experience with other people. But my whole thought process is to be able to say, like, it is tangible to make this yourself, right? Why go to another brand and make something when you can make it yourself? Why spend $500, $600 on shoes and you can make them yourself? You can have your own shoe. You are the brand, right? And all these other companies just attach themselves to you. You do marketing for them and you don't even know it. So it's like, that's what I want to be able to, share into my community, and the people in which uplift me. So anytime somebody buys something or gets something from me, that's you uplifting for us. Because I'm not a selfish person, I'm a selfless person, right? Like, I like to be able to have everybody understand. But it's very difficult when you're the leader or you're the person who's pushing the narrative and you're pushing that, for people to understand that you can't be as, I want to say, giving with your time, right, as they would like.
Okay. So we're gonna pause a second because there's this not the last business that I want to put people onto, but the last business for today that I want to put people onto. So I'm gonna share my screen, okay? And just give me 2 seconds. Okay, here it goes. Boom. So this one is dope. So Today's discussion has also not been brought to you by Mateo New York, which was founded in 2009 by Matthew Harris, who was born and raised in Montego Bay, Jamaica. This self-taught designer's brand began solely focused on men's jewelry, with the first collection pulling inspiration from the concept of a working man's toolbox. After the success of the men's collection, a woman capsule collection was introduced shortly after. In 2014, a strategic decision was made to refocus the brand, and thus their women's fine jewelry collection was launched. The fine jewelry collections bear their true aesthetic of simplicity and minimalism, drawing inspiration from modern art for the modern woman. Each piece is made from 14 karat gold with the consistent use of diamonds and precious gemstones. Today, the brand is sold in some of the best retailers in the world, including Bergdorf Goodman, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, and so many more. The brand features in regularly renowned fashion publications such as Vogue Paris, the New York Times Style Magazine, Marie Claire, and more. Mateo New York was also selected by the Smithsonian Museum to be featured and sold at the African American Museum of Art and Culture in Washington, D.C. in 2016, and the Smithsonian Hirshhorn Museum of Contemporary Art in 2017. So just so you know, and again, if anyone's watching and is interested in buying from this brand or doing business with the brand, I've included the Instagram links and the website. So just go back, you'll see it at the top of the slide. I included the brands that I did for this episode because they reminded me of your brand and kind of what you do. But specifically, Mateo New York, I thought it was dope how, like, you know, it reminded me of like the mission of Daydreams, you know, like it started off with a guy's dream. I think like his mother was a seamstress. And so like he came to New York, he self-taught himself how to construct jewelry. And I think that's similar to you. I feel like you've self-taught yourself how to, you know, create clothing, shoes, and stuff like that. So I think it's really, really dope, the parallels and how far, like, you know, one's dreams can take them, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that when you explained the actual business, because there was a lot of things in which I was able to connect with. So that was definitely a great choice. The last one was definitely.
Yeah, I think that it's really good. Would you ever construct jewelry as well? It just seems like for you, like you're really into design and construction. So like, you know, the way you described it, you're like, well, first I started off with a t-shirt, then I build out to the outfit, then I did the shoes. The next step is going to be furniture, then maybe one day a house. Would you ever design like jewelry pieces as well?
Yeah, there was actually a point where I did take a ring making class, and I made what's the name? I made actual silver rings. I made silver rings in a ring making class in Brooklyn. So it was something that I was definitely interested in. It's something that I would be interested in the future.
Did you use the machine that was in that video clip, like to kind of like make the ring?
Yes, I used that machine. I also used like a soldering machine in order to put the pieces together and fuse them. I learned about fusion. I learned about a lot of things. Like I'm really into thinking about like crafts and how things are put together and created. So that is why I kind of like take a lot of these classes and just further myself. I feel like they're all tools and you get a different aspect of it. But I think definitely jewelry making is something that I would want to get into. But at the point I'm at right now, I'm kind of like trying to just be more and learn about like the actual, not learn more, but implement more of like the leadership aspect of it and build the team. You know, going through the process of just learning the process of it. I just wanted to be able to have a better understanding of it. But now it's time to definitely take to the next phase and, you know, work and collaborate with people in order to do these things.
Teams are definitely super crucial with anything that you do, like whether you want to be a filmmaker, you want to be a designer, you want to be the leader of a revolution. Like you need a team. Like to get to go far by yourself, you might be able to get there, but like you'll be alone.
All right.
I do want to ask you a question. I think that you're a dope, creative. I think that like if anyone follows you at Dudley Designs on Instagram, they'll see like, you're an amazing father. You can tell that your son is like super like in love with his father and all about what his dad does. He looks just like you. I do want to know though, what if you could for one thing to change in society, like if you could change one thing, um, or correction, if you could demand one thing from our government, in order for us to see some real change or equality, what would that one thing be?
Demand one thing.
One thing.
That's a great question, but that's a very difficult one because the one thing I think the one thing that people need is to be able to be themselves more, but also to allow people to have the opportunity to heal from things in which they went through. So I think that I would ask the government to probably bring back some of the after school activities. I think that that's something that I definitely would do because there was a point where you had like counselors, you had like after school trades in which that were being learned. You had all these things, and I think that if we were able to get that back, then we'll be in a better place. That's what I think that. I think that right now.
Okay. So, and then last question, favorite question to ask. What is your favorite thing? What is your favorite part about your Blackness? Why do you love
I just like the energy. I just like the, you know, going to, it's just like, growing up, just listening to the music, the culture of being Black and just being a total part of that. I think that that just gains so much to my creativity that, that's something that can never be replaced because we often look back and say that everything was stripped from us, but we need to understand that moving forward, we have all of this stuff that we have now. We just have to make it better for ourselves. But just being Black and just being, from the Bronx, from New York, being able to like live during the time that I lived through and just have those experiences. That's like my favorite part of just being Black. Like that's my favorite part.
Oh, well, Damian, I really appreciate your time. I thank you so much for like chatting with me about, what it is like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be a dad, what's important in fatherhood, in manhood, in Blackness. Thank you for sharing what it is, what are your favorite things about Blackness. You're super fire. I hope that your business thrives and maybe we can chat again about another topic sometime in the future.
Definitely. I really truly appreciate this talk. I'm very thankful that we were able to have this opportunity. There's so many things that I see that you're doing that is like super dope as well. And I really appreciate having you as somebody that as a friend and being able to talk to you about certain things. So it's super dope. Continue your success. I'm episode 3. I'm looking forward to seeing episode 300. I'm looking forward to episode 3000. So keep going with it. Keep going with it.
Got you. Thank you. Peace, people. Night.
Peace.